So many young, beautiful, innocent people living and enjoying their lives murdered by evil losers in life. I won't call them monsters because they would like that term. They would think that's a great name. I will call them from now on losers because that's what they are. They're losers.
That was scripted, too, by the way, from the president. That was not an off-the-cuff remark. President Trump offering prayers and condolences to families of victims of the Manchester terror attack, adding that the United States stands in absolute solidarity with the UK and branding the suicide bomber, as you heard, an evil loser. Joining me now is the CEO of the world's first counter-extremism organization, Quilliam Haras Rafiq. Haras, thank you very much for being here this evening. I know it's getting late, but your wife is from the same area as the bomber, and your sons work near that arena. I'm curious if this attack last night surprised you, given your line of work.
I think nothing surprises me in this area of work. I was actually there myself until about 8 p.m. last night. I got on one of the last trains before the actual attack to come down to London, and I go back every weekend. What this attack actually did was bring the global jihadist insurgency even closer to my own door. I've been doing this now for about 14 years now, and it's been London, it's been Paris, it's been other parts of the world. Now it's my home city, and I don't want to live, you know, in a situation where I'm worried that the new normal is that I'm waiting for my children to hear news of my children, waiting to see if they're getting home from work okay, whether my wife's okay, whether everybody else is okay. And generally, neither should the rest of the, you know, British people, American people, people in Manchester. We shouldn't allow this to become the new normal. And I think it's wrong that and I've heard some people today and recently say, just get used to it, this is a normal. No, it's not. We will do more, and we have to do more.
I mean, I agree with you. I can't imagine being a parent and not knowing where your child is, and of course assuming the worst if your daughter didn't come home last night from a concert. But I do want to ask you, you know, Britain in particular seems to me, along with France, along with Sweden and Brussels, these cells, these terrorist cells, jihadi cells, seem to be growing and seeming more powerful, but I find them to be in Britain very vocal. And I think I'm a bit surprised that the British security forces, MI6, take your pick, aren't more, I guess, prepared for this. And I'm kind of surprised that this is happening, and especially in the UK, where you've been dealing with this for quite some time. Why?
I think the first thing to recognise is that until last year we had the killing of Joe Cox, which was not a jihadist act of terrorism. Until the recent attack in Westminster and now in Manchester, we haven't had an inverted commas successful jihadist attack in the UK for nearly since the killing of drummer Lee Rigby. And by the way, today is the anniversary of that jihadist attack. So Britain and the UK authorities have stopped a lot of attacks, prevented a lot of attacks. In the last year alone, there have been 13 attacks similar to the one last night that have been prevented and stopped by the British police. The problem we face and the issue that we have is that, you know, post the 1980s, we had an influx. And I know that previous guests that you've had have talked about Wahhabism and Salafism. Yes, Wahhabism and Salafism is the theological justification for these particular types of attacks. But what we've seen in the 80s, more recently, is the political ideology that gives Wahhabism and Salafism the actual direction, and that's Islamism, which is different to Islam. You know, Islamism is a distinct political ideology. Islam is a religion. Islamism wants to set up a utopian Islamist state and enforce a version of Sharia and then spread it around the world. We've seen a big influx of this since the 1980s. And the other thing is, you know, governments until recently and citizens until recently have been in denial. Even today I've seen responses from some members of the community in Britain, some Muslims, some belonging to the far right or far left, actually saying, you know what, it's all Muslims or it's got nothing to do with Islam. The reality is it's somewhere in the middle, and we as a civil society need to root it out, we need to challenge it, and we need to build resilience amongst our youngsters. Otherwise we're going to see this happening again and again.
Haras, we're going to be following your company and your work as well. well. Haras, thank you very much. We appreciate you being with us tonight from London. I know it's very late for you. Thank you, sir.